Hey everyone, how you doing today? I am Mary Ellen Benakin, and I'm here with Sue Jennings, and we are the real estate ladies of North Atlanta. So we're going to be giving you some tips of the trade, some insights about real estate, all about the North Atlanta area. So Sue, introduce yourself.
I'm Sue Jennings, and I've worked with Mary Ellen Benakin at Keller Williams North Atlanta since April of 2013. Where has the time gone, Mary Ellen?
I don't know. It's gone really far away. So we both live in the Alpharetta area. We both have sold and bought lots of homes for our clients as well as for ourselves. But today, what's our topic today, Sue?
We're going to talk about what first-time buyers need to know and how we can, best assist them and just give them a full understanding of what they need to do to get into their first home.
Yeah, I think that's a great topic. And I think it's something a lot of first-time home buyers, they don't even really realize that they can afford something. So this is kind of exciting times. We love working with first-time home buyers because it's the joy of them finally having home ownership and not having to rent, because rent has become ridiculous around here, don't you think?
I think it has. And I just remember when I was buying my first home, how nervous I was and how I really didn't know anything. I didn't even know which end of a paintbrush to use. I learned so much. And even the first couple of weeks I lived in that first house that I bought.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that a little later. So let's start. What's kind of the first thing that you really need to do when you're, purchasing a home, or what do you need to do?
I just always like to sit down with my buyers and really understand their needs and their budget, because after all, this is all about them and what is going to work best for their budget. I mean, this is a big step for first-time home buyers. This is their biggest purchase of a lifetime,
and it's likely always, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably the biggest in whether you're doing your first home, your 10th home. It's such a big purchase. So you really need, first of all, you need a great professional like ourselves, right? I mean, we definitely need that. First steps, though, is what? Contacting an amazing lender, which we have plenty of those to go by, right?
We do. And what's interesting about Mary Ellen's background and my background is we both worked in finance, and we have MBAs in finance as well. So we understand those basics, and we can, just assist our buyers to the best ability that we have. So, hopefully we're meeting with somebody that kind of knows what they want, maybe has, put together a budget of what they can afford and actually tried to save some money. That's always key. How much money do they have for a down payment? It's really hard to save money these days.
Let's kind of dig into that. So I think the most important is don't worry about the interest rates. Forget about the interest rates. Worry about what your payment's going to be. So it's very important to talk to a lender first so they can say, hey, this is my budget and this is where I want to stick. So they're going to then run the numbers at this time, what the interest rates are. Right. So we get the number. Hey, you can afford, say, $400,000. Let's just talk about $400,000. Say you can afford $400,000. And then the next step is we don't get involved in people's financials at all. No, absolutely not. So
that's why we work with great lenders that have amazing products that can give you options as a first-time home buyer as to, are you able to put 20% down, or can you only put 10% down, or 5%, or even just 3.5%? And what are the differences between those different mortgage products?
Yeah, let's talk about a couple of them just off the top so that people can understand. There's so many different ways to purchase a house, but these are the basics. Basically, you can do cash if you have all cash, which is great. First-time home buyers don't have cash that can purchase a home. So then there's a product called a conventional loan, where there's many different phases where you can put 5, 10, 15, 20% or more down. And that gets a certain interest rate. And your interest rate depends on your credit score, and which is so important. So another important tidbit, you're thinking about purchasing a home and you're a young kid, get your credit score and know your credit score. A lot of people don't know their credit score. So really know what your credit score is. And we don't get involved in any of that stuff, credit score or anything. That's all the lender. Then there's a product called an FHA loan, which is a product that is great for first-time home buyers. And the only little tidbit about FHA is you really don't want to go with, a fixer-upper home because there are some challenges. An FHA appraiser might come back and say that you have to fix this and this and this before closing, and the seller has to do that, or we have to work it out. So it's a little hiccup in the whole process. And then VA loan, and we'll just go over the VA loan real quick, and then Sue, you can talk all you want. VA loan is 100% loan, which we love. We love our veterans. It's a great product. VA appraisers are the same way. They're a little pickier when the appraiser goes out. So that's just another tidbit. Your lender's going to tell you what kind of loan you're going to go into, and then we're going to guide you in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that first-time home buyers need to be practical. And a lot of them say, I want to buy a fixer-upper because I want to build equity and I'm really handy. I can do this and I can get, more house for my money if I'm buying this fixer-upper. What I think a lot of first-time home buyers don't realize is how expensive that can be. And, when things break, how much free cash you have to have on hand to be able to pay for those things, whether it's, new pipes or an HVAC system or a roof, or, some of these things are big ticket items. It's not just a matter of, knowing which end of the paintbrush to use and then putting a coat of paint on the walls to make it look pretty. Lipstick on a pig is wonderful, but you really have to think about the bones of the house. And so that's why, we really want to understand with our buyers what their lifestyle's like, how busy they are. Are they young professionals that travel a lot and they're going to be getting on a plane and going to Chicago every week or going to San Francisco every week? And so how much time do you really have to devote to home repairs? And so therefore, with somebody like that, we often will look at new construction. We'll look at condos and townhouses for these individuals because it enables them to continue to have their lifestyle as well. Because a lot of these communities also have pools and, extra parking for your guests for, whenever you want to have people over, and they're walkable to maybe downtown areas, things like that. Plus, they just can make your entrance into home ownership a little bit easier if you don't have all the old toilets and old sinks and everything else to have to take care of right away.
Yeah, and everybody likes HGTV, right? We all watch that and think we can do it, and they don't realize how much it costs. So I always tell my first-time home buyers, the best thing you can do for yourself is to have a home bank account, and every month put some money in there because of those big ticket items, not for the, hey, I want to decorate my house like HGTV. I'm talking about the major things that have to be done on a house, whether it's the roof, and Sue went into all those big ticket items. So everyone should have a slush fund of house that they don't touch and just sits there, because Murphy's Law, right? You move in a house, what happens? The AC breaks. This breaks, that breaks. There's also some other ways to deal with that, which is like a home warranty. We always can ask the seller, or you can get a home warranty if you have a resale house. And that's just another avenue that we're here to guide you in the right direction and tell you. I will say, though, new construction's the best, right? If you're a first-time home buyer, no maintenance, not worry about anything for a while, a new construction's the best way to go. Right, Sue? Do you not agree?
Yeah, I do agree on that one. I'm a big fan of new construction, but I do understand my buyers that really like to build equity and love their fixer-uppers because that's just what they love to do. Some people love older homes, and that's what we have to understand with each of the buyers that we work with, what works best for them, because this is all about them and their needs. So Mary Ellen, we've met our buyer, we understand their needs, and we've introduced them to a lender who has now pre-qualified them for, whether it's an FHA, a conventional, a VA loan, whatever it is. what are the next steps? What do we do next with our buyers?
Well, then it becomes exciting, which everyone loves, right? So I think once you sit down, and I think what's really important is we're not going to show 100 homes to somebody. We're not going to show 50 homes to someone. What we're going to do is we're going to narrow that down. So we're asking a lot of questions to our buyers. What are you looking for? What school system? What are your wants and what are your needs? Okay. Needs and wants are two different things, right, Sue?
Right. Yeah. It's, we all want, all these things, but what we truly need and what we can truly afford might be something totally different. And I always believe in being practical at the end of the day. Like, where do you work? How far do you really want your commute to be? How are you going to get to work? Do you want to be walkable? Do you want to sit in Atlanta traffic for the next hour and a half every morning?
Do you want to be close to Home Depot? Do you want to be close to Lowe's? Do you want to be close to Costco? I mean, it's amazing how in our careers, we've heard so many things like, I have to be within this far from a grocery store, this far, I need a Publix, I need a Kroger, I need a Target. So it's so interesting because everyone has something different they want. So,
and I had the first time home buyer this past year that got very excited because the condo we found for him was close to a Taco Bell, and he loves Taco Bell. So, hey, whatever works,
Right. And especially, so, obviously a lot of first-time home buyers are young, hip, and they want to be close to everything. And sometimes that cannot be as affordable. It's much more expensive. Right. So, we have to problem shoot on different things to find for them. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to compromise in places you don't want to. And I think working with someone and us doing the research before, we're not going to pop by and show you a house. We're going to have that consult with you. We're going to talk about what you want to do. And then we're going to say, you know what? You don't need to see 10 houses. We're going to narrow this down to 5, and you're going to pick one of the 5. And in the market, that's kind of, there's not a lot of inventory. That's going to be a little bit of a struggle, except we have to know your time frame. So Sue, how fast can you close on a property here in Georgia?
Well, depending upon if I'm using my preferred lender, I can do it in 2 to 3 weeks very, very easily.
So generally, they know that.
About 30 days, though.
Yeah. So the average in Georgia. So that's another thing. When you're moving from another state, you're like, oh my God, it takes like 3 months to, whatever, to sign for my house. And I'm going, here in Georgia, it's fast. It's like we're from New York. I'm from New York, and I'm going, we can close in 12 days or 15 days or whatever. So we can kind of do that pretty quickly here in Georgia. So that's another thing to take into effect. So, and what we're finding now, Sue, is we're finding a lot of people that are renting, all of a sudden their landlords are saying, you got 60 days to be out. We're selling this property, and you got to go find something. So we're finding a lot of our first-time home buyers are coming from, they didn't think they were going to buy, and then all of a sudden they kind of got thrown into it. So we're here to make it the least amount of stress for you and just get you through the whole entire process.
Right. And I think with those buyers that we're encountering that are, in a rush for one reason or the other because of a job transfer or their landlord is selling the property, we need to make sure that they're being realistic with their expectations. No house is perfect. I don't care whether you're looking at HGTV or looking on Zillow or what you're looking at. There is no such thing as a perfect home. And so what we have to do is focus on the things that are tops in your criteria, fit your budget, and are really realistic as far as getting into that home appropriately.
Yeah. And another thing is when we deal with first-time home buyers, we're dealing with, they have a lot of anxiety and they're very nervous and they have a lot of questions. So I think the most important thing is I tell every single first-time home buyer, ask me any question. No question is dumb. No, don't feel like, you don't know it all, and you're not going to know it all, because listen, I've been in business for over 20 years. And guess what? I'm always learning. There's always new things going on. There's always new stuff. So I think that everybody needs to know that you've got somebody, first of all, that communicates with you And what's really important to us and to our clients is that we're there for you. We communicate with you. We're there. We're going to respond back to you, and really give you that guidance and guide you through the whole process. All right. So Sue, we're excited. We're getting in the car now and we're going to our first house. So kind of walk us through that. I'm the buyer and you're showing us some houses. Like, what do I expect that first day we're going out?
Well, I always encourage my buyers to look at the neighborhood as we're driving into it, see if it's something that looks like they would be comfortable living with, whether they would feel safe in that neighborhood, whether they, like the location. Location is key on everything. So we get to the property and we generally take a look, of course, at the curb appeal at the front of the property. Sometimes we'll walk around to the back of the property right away, just so that we can see what the property backs up to, what, is on either side of the property. And then we get to the point where we get to the front door and I pick up the super lockbox and put in my code into my phone and open the lockbox and open the door for them. If the lights aren't on, I'll go in, I'll turn on all the lights for everybody, and we'll start walking through the house together.
Yeah, so that's super exciting. And one more thing that I do before maybe we go out is I tell everybody, like you talk about, do you like that neighborhood? Mm-hmm. A lot of times I'll tell clients, you've got to do your homework too. Now I'm going to send you these properties, these 5 properties. Do me a favor, we're going out on Saturday. Can you just drive through them before Saturday? Because let's not waste your time, my time, or anybody's time, or the seller's time. They're getting the house ready to go if that's not something that fits your lifestyle criteria and everything like that. So we get in the house. Go ahead. We get in the house.
I also tell my buyers when we get in the house that if there's something about the house, even if it's a 2-story house and we're only on the first floor, there's something about the house that is a big turnoff to them where this is just not going to work, we're out the door. We don't need to see the rest of the house if that's not going to work for them. And I've seen some pretty interesting things over the years.
Yeah. And, like photographer is great. And, so much when you see photos and then you walk in a house and you're like, oh, that's not what I expected. Mm-hmm. Or the floor plan's not what I've expected.
Right.
So, and you can, like Sue, I would say, you're like me, we can read people's faces very fast, and just be like, it's not an insult to me if you don't want to walk through this house. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or it smells, or, you're just like, ooh, I don't want to be in that house, or just something about it just didn't hit you right.
Right.
I think that's important.
And I will always be respectful of the sellers and the listing agent. And I will always give them feedback as to, why this didn't work for our buyer, and be honest with them.
All right. So I'm in the house and we're going to go to the next house. Before we leave to go to the next house, do you say, hey, should we name this house, or on a scale of 1 to 10? What do you do, Sue?
Well, we generally do nickname the houses. It just makes them easier to remember. Like, even we'll nickname a house. Well, that's the house with the green wall, or that's the house that had the teddy bear on the sofa. We'll give it cute names like that because it gives it instant recognition back to the buyer to remember. Because one of the reasons why I don't like to show more than, say, 5 homes in a day is everybody's brain becomes mush. And you become a potato chip brain where you can't remember the details of anything. And that's really not helpful to anybody. So after we see the first 3 houses, I always say, okay, now we're ready to start ranking these houses. And every time we see another house, we're going to take one off the list so that we never have more than 3 homes on our list at any given time.
And that's really great, Sue. I love
that. So it just makes it easier for everybody else. If this one's still my number 1, that's great. Maybe the 4th house has moved up to position number 2, and one of the houses just dropped off the list. So we are always updating our priorities. We're always updating what works the best for our client.
Okay. So okay, we're excited. We saw 5 houses. We have our number 1. Then what do? Then we get nervous and anxious.
Well, no, We don't get nervous and anxious because that's why they have Mary Ellen and Sue helping them out, because we're going to make sure that everything goes smoothly for them. And, we'll sit down and we'll look at the numbers, and we will start to look at the comps and what other homes that are of equivalent size in that neighborhood, in that school district, of that same age, what they've sold for recently and how quickly they've sold. Because a lot of times our buyers want to sleep on it. And I've always said, if you sleep on it, you might not sleep in it. So we need to make a decision today.
Sue's favorite things. But, but Zillow says it's worth this. Why are we offering this?
Well, we always go with the facts and the figures. We look at the comps and we do our research, and we always compare basement homes to basement homes. Is it a finished basement? We only compare that to finished basement homes. Slabs to slabs as far as homes. And if we need to make adjustments, we do have numbers that we can use to adjust those estimates to come up with a reasonable offer on a home. We also look at the number of days on market. If everything in that neighborhood is flying off the market, we know we need to come in either at asking price or over asking price, depending upon what the current activity is in that neighborhood. It's not always that we can, knock a certain dollar amount off the asking price and automatically win, an offer.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go in and we'll have 16 offers and we'll be competing. And it's hard for a first-time home buyer to do that and to understand that. But we've got experience with that. And that's why we do what we do.
And also just talking about it going into multiple offers and things like that. Sometimes with first-time home buyers, they get very discouraged if we lose out on offers. And we do everything in our power. And we have lots of little tricks of the trade that we can do to win a multiple offer situation, but that always doesn't happen. So sometimes you might want to look at a house that's been sitting on the market for 30 days or a new construction or something like that, and you might have a better shot of winning a bid on a house like that. So I think that that's kind of important too, just to kind of throw it out there. So we're deciding on putting up an offer, and then what do we do? Like, there's all this paperwork. How do we do it? Like, how do you guide us in the right direction, Sue? What we have to sign, and I'm nervous about signing a contract. What do I do? You go over word by word with me. What do you do?
Well, it really depends upon the personality of the buyer as to how much they want us to handhold with them. Some people are very independent and say, I'll read it myself. Some people are not real detail oriented and say, just give me the highlights. So again, we have to really gauge based upon our buyer's personality and their temperament, how we proceed with them in terms of the amount of detail that we give them. We do use only Georgia Association Realtor forms. We do have to have a signed buyer brokerage agreement with our buyer before we even take them out. A buyer brokerage agreement is basically just our agreement to work together. And it's our commitment to you as well as the commitment of the buyer to us as well.
Perfect. So let's go the lowdown on a purchase and sale agreement. What's included in that, and what would you need to know, like purchase price, and let's get into kind of the details of a purchase and sale agreement on what specific things you need to put in an offer.
Well, the purchase and sale agreement starts out with today's date, of course, and the address of the property and a legal description of the property, so that we're all talking about the same property in on a level playing field. In that purchase and sale agreement, we will put an offer price in there. We will put the number of days of due diligence that we want for the property. And what due diligence means is those are our days to inspect the property and then come back to the seller and say, Mr. Seller, we want these two items, prepared prior to closing, and can you please give us the receipts for those items? It could be more than two items. Maybe there's nothing at all that we're asking for, depending upon the situation. We will also be putting in there the closing date, who the closing attorney is going to be, and we will also be putting in an exhibit in there that's either a financing contingency or a cash no financing contingency, depending upon how our buyer is paying for the property.
And Sue,
And
what about earnest money? Like earnest money, like I get nervous, like I'm giving you earnest money. How does that work? How does
okay,
earnest
well,
money?
if I'm representing you as the buyer, the earnest money would be made out to Keller Williams, North Atlanta, and it will be put on deposit at Keller Williams, North Atlanta until closing, and then it's credited back to you at closing. If for some reason during the due diligence period, you decide that you've changed your mind on this property because it's going to require too many repairs or something like that, then we do a terminate and release agreement, and the earnest money is returned to the buyer. There's only one other situation where a purchase and sale agreement can be terminated, and that's if the financing would fall through, and that's detailed in that financing exhibit as well. But that's why we work with our buyers up front and have them work with our preferred lenders that pre-qualify them and then get them into underwriting right up front so that we minimize any of those issues.
Great. So then just tell me a little bit about, we have exhibits and we have like every property has a seller's disclosure and a community association if there's a community. Can you get into those two documents so that first-time home buyers can understand that?
Right. So those two documents, the difference is a seller's property disclosure is filled out by the seller, and it basically goes through the bones of the home and states, whether there have been any issues, what has been repaired, how old maybe the HVAC units are, things like that. And then the difference between that and a community association disclosure, a community association disclosure states who the HOA is, if there is a homeowners association at all, and what the contact would be at the HOA, as well as the monthly commitment on that HOA payment, what it covers, and also if there is any sort of initiation fee due at closing.
Oh, okay. So homeowners associations, a lot of people don't understand what that is. And that, oh my God, I don't want a homeowners association because I want to paint my house purple. Well, the reason why we have homeowners associations is because we want everyone to kind of abide by rules. We don't want, boats in the yard and, cars in the front yard or, things like that.
If you're in a townhome or a condominium community, the HOA also carries the property insurance on the structure of the building that you're buying into. So you really only need to carry a more limited policy for the interior contents of your home, much like a renter's policy, but you are the homeowner. And so really your homeowner's insurance is lower in those properties because a portion of your insurance is already covered by your HOA.
Oh, okay. Great, Sue. Thanks. So we put this great offer together and we use DocuSign, which is an electronic, digital signing. So we put it all together and then we send it over to the listing agent and seller. And then we just wait and hear, right?
And that's where Mary Ellen's a great negotiator. So Mary Ellen, what do you do as far as negotiating? Tell me some of your
Yeah, so negotiating is one of my favorite things to do, as well as Sue is, and just negotiating, get the best price, the best conditions, and everything else for the property. So if there's multiple offers, you don't really have a lot of negotiating in there, but what we're going to do is we're going to put your best offer forward, and it could be price, it could be number of days to close. I mean, if we can close quickly, then maybe that's and we always ask the listing agent, what's important to your seller, even if it's not in multiple offers. So when we're putting an offer together, we're giving that seller's going to be connected because they're going to be like, yes, I need to be out of here in 30 days, or I need 2 days after closing, or I need something. So I think it's really important to have that communication between you and the listing agent, as well as so that you can negotiate for your clients and you know what your client's bottom line is, and you just, you make it work in between everything else. So negotiating is so much fun.
Do you ask your buyers to write a letter to the seller I mean, it's a big compliment to a seller to have somebody make an offer on their
Yes,
home
and
that they've
we have
loved.
to be careful with that. What we could do is tell the listing agent about our, but some people don't care, and we don't want to sometimes step on any ethical or anything else with that having to do with those letters. We used to be able to use them, and then people, go back and forth on them. So for me, it's just building a great relationship with the listing agent as being representing the buyer, so that I have a great relationship with them and tell them how easy the transaction is going to be, because I know what I'm doing and I'm going to get it to the closing table. Because a lot of listing agents will say, oh, well, this has fallen through 3 times, this and that. I go, no, we're going to get it to the closing table. So it's very important to have agents who are proactive, and they're one step ahead of you. So we're one step ahead of what's going to happen next during the transaction. And we know what's going to be good, bad, and ugly. And we're just going to, power through it and make it a win-win for everybody.
So my offer was just accepted. Congratulations, me. And so what happens next?
Okay, what happens next? So the first thing is the earnest money. So the earnest money needs to be delivered to our office either by a check or wired. So we give you the wiring instructions and do that. So that's the first thing. And then the next thing is our agent, Sue Jennings, is going to order a home inspection. So how much do home inspections cost, Sue? About $500-$600?
They do. And some of it depends, the actual cost depends upon the property itself. I mean, if the property is a great big home, it's going to cost more. If the property has a pool, we do a pool inspection. We can also add on a radon inspection to see, make sure the home is safe for your family.
What's radon, Sue? What is radon?
Radon is an odorless gas that can come up through a, basement floor or a slab, and it is a cancer-causing substance, unfortunately, but it can be remediated from a home. So it is not the kiss of death to have a home with radon. The radon reading needs to be 4.0 or less. If it's above 4.0, then we can ask the seller to remediate that and vent that out of the home, and takes care of the problem permanently in the home. Now, radon readings can go up and down, and that's what I do explain to my buyers, that it depends upon what the weather's like outside too, as to what that rating will come in at.
Yeah, so when you have a home inspection, they also do a termite inspection as well, which I think is very important here in the state of Georgia, to have a termite bond on your property. But our inspector,
Mary Ellen, did you know there's 2 types of homes in Georgia?
What are they?
They are the homes that have termites, or the homes that are going to have termites.
There you go. So a very important thing to have on your home is a termite bond. So our home inspection, including in the price of our home inspector that we use, they have a termite company that comes out to make sure that that's all good. Because even if someone has a termite bond on, you're getting a second opinion that it's good to go for the closing. And so you really need to have that. That's really important. And also, like, if you have like sprinkler systems or something like that, they can inspect that for an extra cost. And then if you have, okay, we've got sewer and we have septic. So Sue, septic is another inspection that you can have done through the home inspector. And what is septic compared to sewer?
Right. We just want to make sure that septic system doesn't have any cracks in it, isn't leaking. And that's just a visual inspection. They can also do a dye test on a septic system. And so that's just something else that we recommend that be done at the time of inspections during due diligence.
Okay. So while you're ordering, this inspection is done during the due diligence period, correct? And while that is all happening behind the scenes, the lender is asking you for all this information. So what I tell people is, even if they ask you 10 times for the same thing, just resend it, because lenders have a lot of different people touching the file. So one person might have it and not. So don't be frustrated with lenders. They're the ones that are lending you this money to buy this house for you, that whatever they ask for, you jump. And the sooner you get it to them, the better. Like, if they ask for it, do it right away. And our lenders love when we have our clients that, I need this bank statement. Okay, give me 5 minutes. There you go. So I think that's important that it's coinciding doing the whole time. Okay,
Right.
so we have the inspection done and it comes back, the inspection report. Okay, well, I'm really nervous because there's like 100 items on this inspection report. That's what the inspector's job is to do, to find every little thing wrong. When you have an older house, the codes change every single year, right? Mm-hmm. So of course you're going to have some electrical and some plumbing, you're going to have those issues. So I see this whole big report, I see this summary, and I'm a little overwhelmed. What do I do, Sue? What do I do?
Well, what we do is we look at the items that are either a fire hazard, a structural hazard, or a major risk to the home, like a plumbing issue or something that's just really totally not safe. And what we do is then we go back and we only ask for repairs to those top key items that are really of significance to the structure, the quality of life in the home, and safety to the people living there.
Okay, great. So, and I always have this inspection report. So after I move in, if I want all these items fixed, if I'm like really nervous Nelly, I can just get a contractor to come in and fix all these items, correct? Right. That'll make me feel better. And that's why you have to have that slush fund I was talking about, right? That's in your bank account so that you can, have that money for these little electrical issues or plumbing things or anything that has to do with the house. Okay, so we go through the due diligence period. So now we're like, the seller and the buyer, we agree upon what repairs. Now we're just moving forward towards the appraisal. So tell me a little bit about appraisal. Like, what do we do there?
Well, the appraisal is going to be ordered by the mortgage lender.
And what does that cost approximately? $500-$600, about that right now?
Yeah. At least, yes, at least, depending upon the size of the home again, too. But the appraiser will go out to the property and will oftentimes enter the property and do a physical inspection of the property and take a lot of pictures. Sometimes there's a drive-by appraisal done if it's a newer property or, something in new construction where they don't really need to enter the property. But the appraiser will then take all these photos, go back to their office and take all the details and pull up comps, comparables of other properties that have sold within a 3-mile radius of that property. Sorry about that. And they will, look at the values. They'll make adjustments for positives and negatives on properties that, maybe this one has a beautiful view of the lake, but this one has a view of an office building. So they'll make adjustments for the values of the lot, the value of the home in general, and then they'll come up with an appraised value of the home. And so
you mean they don't look at Zillow?
No, they don't actually.
But Zillow says my house is worth $405, and you're giving me appraisal of $399. No.
You seriously want my opinion on Zillow? I don't think you want me to give that.
No, you don't want. We don't want to do an opinion on Zillow. But what I will also say is that the appraiser also looks only within the last 6 months of sales,
right?
Unless they need to adjust. And sometimes you're going to have specialty homes, and that's a whole nother ballpark. But anyway, that's just the basics of the appraisal. So the appraisal's happening. You're getting all your information into the lender, and we're getting towards the closing date. What's the next step? We're getting there. And all of a sudden,
we need to make sure that we have our, everything in line with our mortgage lender, that our mortgage lender gets us, clear to close. That's a key thing. We need to be clear to close.
That's like clear to close is great.
Right. And we're also going to be looking for the receipts from those repairs from the seller's agent for the items that we asked for in the amendment to address concerns during our due diligence period.
Okay, and then what about the utilities? How do I do that? What do I do? What utilities?
We'll ask the seller's agent to give us a list of the utility providers for that particular property, and then we'll pass that on to our buyer, who then has to contact each of the utilities and set up their water, their sewer if need be, their electrical, their natural gas, the HOA, everything else.
Yeah. And, we've had many people where we are so proactive and tell our clients, don't forget, especially on a weekend, you close on a Friday and you have no electricity for Saturday or water for Saturday and Sunday because you didn't listen to us. So we can't be your babysitters on this. All we can do, we can hold your hand. We cannot make the phone call for you because they're going to run your credit and everything else. But what we can tell you is that, especially if we're closing on a Friday, please make sure you have the utilities turned on Friday and not Monday, because you could be moving in and you have no electricity. You can't get your garage door open. You can't take a shower. You got no water. So that's just a little bit of advice from experienced people that we've worked with. Right, Sue?
Right. I mean, I've seen it where buyers don't have trash collection for 4 weeks, but that you can deal with. Not having electricity or water is a big problem.
Yes. Or AC in the summertime here, right?
Yeah. Well, that's part of your
electricity. That AC as soon as we move in, especially move-in day with movers.
Right.
Okay. So what else? Like, let's talk about movers. Like, I don't know anything about movers. So like, can you help me like figure out what else I need to do? Like movers, can you give me some advice, or what would you do?
We can put you in touch with some movers that previous clients of ours have used. Not everybody's experience with any vendors that we offer, whether it's a mover, an electrician, a plumber, everybody's experience is going to be different with these. So I'm always hesitant to, offer, a recommendation of a vendor, although I do, because.
Well, I always give 3, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So, and this is what the one thing I find about a lot of vendors is that you will get prices all over the place. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to like movers, I go with your gut and go with like, sit down with them, have a consult with them, and go with your gut, and don't do the most expensive, the least, just figure it out and read reviews. Reviews are so important on Google about them. And it's really hard because even everybody can have a bad day, right? And have a bad experience. Mm-hmm. So you just have to go with your gut. And that's what I always tell people. We won't say, hey, you got to use this person. We're going to be, here's three vendors. We've used them all. We've had amazing experiences, and just kind of go with that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we've got our movers scheduled. We've got our closing scheduled. And then, what about money? Like, how do I wire money?
Yeah, so prior to closing, all documentation according to trade regulations has to be completed. And that includes the closing attorney, because in Georgia, we close with attorneys, not with title companies. Will also, through their system, send you a form that will have the wire instructions for the amount of money that you need to wire to closing. And so what you need to do is take that as the buyer to your bank where the funds are coming from. And actually, I recommend talking to a teller or to somebody working inside the bank to actually initiate that wire while you're sitting there with them or standing there with them. This is not something that you can go online to your Wells Fargo, online banking system and initiate from your own computer, because that would be an ACH transaction, which is not accepted here in the state of Georgia. But you do need to physically wire the funds to a closing attorney here in Georgia. If for some reason we're short a few dollars, I do recommend that you always have a checkbook with you to closing, along with your identification. It's important to have your driver's license or a passport with you at closing. And if there is a reconciliation of a few dollars, generally less than $5,000, a check for that amount is accepted by a Georgia closing attorney here.
Okay, so my question, Sue, too, is like, I'm getting all these emails from attorneys, and there's a lot of fraud going on. So when you get that information from the attorney, you're also going to call the attorney. You're going to call the number, correct, not from that email, but that you have, and you're going to verify this is the closing attorney, this is the wiring instructions, and this is the place that we're going to, this is where we're going to close at. This is the office we're closing at. Right. And you're just going to make sure you have, like, you talk to somebody physically there. And I always suggest that, because there's just a lot of fraud. I had somebody wired money to the wrong place. It happens, even though you've told them and you've held their hand. So I'm very, very adamant about telling people it's very important to double check the wiring, triple check the wiring instructions.
Right.
So you're wiring the money, and your lender's telling you the dollar amount. So the lender's going to have the breakout of what everything costs. So there's called a settlement statement. So tell us a little bit about settlement statement, Sue.
Well, a closing disclosure is basically going to show, of course, the sale price of the home, and then any credits and debits to the buyer or the seller based upon any prepayments that have been made for HOA, for homeowners insurance, taxes. And, we don't just have real estate taxes, we have school taxes, we have city taxes, and so forth. And then it will also detail all of the expenses related to your mortgage and to closing the loan as well at the closing attorney's office. So there'll be some filing fees on there.
Yes, filing fees, transfer tax, some other taxes. So you're going to get that information before closing. So when you're working on the buy side, your lender's going to have that for you. And you're also going to go over with the numbers if you have any questions with your realtor, and just have any questions, because people sometimes things are paid and they're not paid and stuff. And sometimes taxes, another thing is property taxes, depending on what county you live in and when the taxes were paid, you're either going to get a credit or debit because everybody pays their taxes for the whole year, right? So you have to take that into effect when people say, well, what are closing costs? How much is it going to cost me? We really don't know until when you close and what taxes have been paid, what HOA fees have been paid, the debits and credits of closing with an attorney in Georgia.
Right. So the time of the year that you close and the time of the month that you close, the day of the month that you close, can have a big impact on your actual dollar amount that you have to bring to closing.
Okay, so all right, it's closing day and we're super excited, but what do we do before we go to the closing? What's one of the most important things we have to go do?
We do a final walkthrough of the property with our buyers, and basically we're just looking to make sure that the home is being left in an appropriate condition, that it's all the debris from the previous owner has been removed, that the seller also didn't damage anything when they were moving out, and also if appliances were supposed to be left, that those appliances are in fact still there.
So the seller didn't bring the kitchen sink out, taking the kitchen sink with you, or lighting fixtures or anything like that. We've had many experiences on the buy and the sell side of, yes, I took everything out, or, you're dealing with a divorce situation and they left that, but they left this and no one took this. So also as an agent, either on the listing side or the buying side, you're also making sure that your client is doing what they're supposed to do. So you're there with the buyers, you go through your final walkthrough, you get to the attorney's office. Now what do you do?
Well, the first thing that I have my buyers do once they get to the attorney's office is present their identification to
like ID or passport, what? Usually two forms of ID, right?
Right. Driver's license and a passport are always, excellent forms of ID. And if you need specifics, the closing attorney will tell you exactly what they will accept if you don't have those two forms of ID. And then basically we go into a conference room, and the buyers sit on one side of the table generally, and the sellers sit on the other side of the table. And at the head of the table is the closing attorney, who takes it from there as far as the stack of documents that need to be signed. Based upon, a lot of that is from the mortgage lender, though. And so generally,
I don't know, when are they going to get in times that everything can be electronically signed? They still want, and it has to be blue ink.
It does.
So don't bring black ink with you. The attorneys always have blue ink. And every time someone picks up a pen that's about black, they go, no, blue.
Right. They always have blue ink in cup holders on the table. And they also have a lot of chocolate. And that
I was just going to say, they always have a snack, and they have it's like a big party. They have water there, soda, whatever. So you're sitting there. So the attorney's in the middle, and you're there with your clients, and the seller with their agents. And how long does the process usually take? Is it 5 minutes, or is it 3 hours?
Well, it depends upon whether you're paying cash or whether you have financed the transaction. Cash transactions are generally the fastest, and but a mortgage transaction is totally fine. We can get through in 45 minutes to an hour generally.
Yeah, and also it has to fund too. So there's a lot of times you'll go in and you'll have to sign like 30 pages, and then the attorney leaves and then sends it to the lender so that they can approve it, so it can come faster for review to see if they want anything else. But what's really important is that the attorney is going to explain everything to you page by page and what you're signing. So they're going to give you the lowdown, like this page is for the deed and this is the and so that you understand the foreclosure law in Georgia that's always said in every single transaction. So it's just interesting how it all kind of goes together. So okay, you're there and then you're finished everything, it's all funded, and you get your keys. How exciting is that?
Yep, you're done.
You're done. Okay, you're done. Okay, and then it doesn't end there. Our relationship doesn't end there. You call us if you need a plumber, you need an electrician, you need a landscaper, whatever you need, we're here for you. And one more thing that the attorney will talk about is when the taxes come in the next year, so you also want to get the seller's phone number. Because you might get some mail from the seller's
forwarding address too.
A forwarding address and the seller, and have that information, because sometimes, especially nowadays, there's so much technology in a house. Like you might be like, oh, I don't know how to do that and I forgot. And you call the seller and the seller says, hey, I can help you with this. So, you just kind of go with the flow with that. So that's important to know as well, that, there's always direct conversation with the seller after the transaction for here's your mail or here's this is perfectly fine. And the attorney will also tell you that the deed gets recorded in the state of Georgia, and not like people, once you buy a house, your name's on this list and you get emails about title and emails about all kinds of stuff. Just disregard all that stuff because you already have the title in your hands.
Right.
And what about homestead exemption? That's one more thing we need to talk about that nobody knows about. So
tell me about that, Mary Ellen.
Okay, so homestead exemption in the state of Georgia, if it's your primary home, you get a discount on your taxes. Quote unquote discount. I'm not so sure, but anyway. If it's your primary home, you get a discount. So depending on, you have to apply the next year. So if you sell your house in June of 2024, then in 2025, you have to apply by 2025 to get your discount on home exemption. And that information is, and what you need is basically you need your settlement statements, and you just go in and you just apply for homestead exemption. And another thing too, going back to the utilities, some utilities require the settlement statement, and there's always things that require the settlement statement. So don't lose that, keep that. You should have it electronically as well as paper. The attorney's going to give you all paper stuff, but electronically as well is really good, because if you need to send it anywhere else. So
right, exactly.
So that's it. So you get your, anything else we want to talk about, you get it, you have your house, you're all happy. And, it's not that hard of a process. It can be very stressful at times. It can be exciting at times. It can be anxious at times. But I think what's really important is that you have people who know how to deal with every kind of personality and how people are handling everything, and just kind of go with the flow. So Sue, anything else to add, or you want to tell maybe a story or two about a first-time home buyer?
I think in general, the process has gotten a lot easier than it was years ago. I have worked with a lot of first-time home buyers. Never had a bad experience with a first-time home buyer, because I just ask them to always, contact me if they have any questions or concerns, or anything just doesn't feel right to them. And we walk through the process together, that I am their trusted advisor. You know,
I love that. I love that.
You have an interesting story right now.
I do. So I have an interesting story with first-time home buyers. Is they're doing an FHA loan, and they really wanted a fixer-upper. And I kept on telling them it's going to be a challenge to find one. So we were in multiple offers, and we won a multiple offers and with an FHA loan. So I was like, oh no, is this going to pass the appraiser? So
Congratulations.
the FHA appraiser came by and they said, you have to do this, this, and this to the house in order to get it. So we worked with the seller and he did those repair items. And there was a repair item that we actually did too. Our buyers actually were like, well, we'll do this one if you do that one. So we all compromised. It's a win-win situation. And we're going to be going to the closing table, which is so exciting. It's a lot to take on, but they really wanted a fixer-upper. They wanted to make it their own. And some people are like that. I looked at everything. I was just like, okay, are you ready for that? You ready for it? And they are. So, I mean, all first-time home buyers that I've worked with are amazing. A lot of people say that they don't want new construction. And then when I show them new construction, they end up with new construction. So I always feel like we listen to you, but we also will throw in a new construction in there in that price point, just so you see what you get for your money for a new construction. So I think that that's important there too. And one more thing that's kind of something that a lot of people don't know, and being a first-time home buyer, is that they're looking on properties on Zillow and they're looking on realtor.com and they're looking all over the web, and they really see a property and they want to see it. The first thing they have to do is call us. They don't call the listing agent. So that's another thing that a lot of people I don't think know. And I think that's a good advice that once, and I tell people, here's a stack of my cards. If you go to any open houses, bring my card and tell me you're going to an open house, and I'll call the agent and say my clients, Cindy and Todd are going to be there. So I think that that's important too. It's just that realizing that we're here for you every step of the way. You can go to open houses and go see new construction, but just remember, we're representing you, and just inform us and communicate with us what you're doing. So I think that that's another good tidbit about first-time home buyers too, as well. Agree?
Yeah. And we always set our buyers up on a search through the FMLS matrix system. And so that system will send them all the new listings as soon as they come on the market, as far as what will match their criteria, that, in the area, the location, the number of beds and baths, and the price point that we're looking in.
Okay, perfect. That's all we have for today. And we're the real estate ladies of North Atlanta.